Broken.
Pictures up.
Cinemaniacs podcast. Take one.
Action!
Hey everybody. Welcome to the Cinemaniacs podcast, the inaugural first episode. That's right. It's been a long time coming, but here we are. I'm your gorgeous host, Noble Banks, and Banks is like Tyra Banks. You know, where I'm related to her, so.
And then I'm the other guy. My name's Josh. That's Josh. In case you didn't know, it's Josh Buzzard like the bird.
Nice. Hi, Josh.
Hello.
This is the show where we discuss movies, TV, and other forms of cinematic storytelling. Fun fact, Josh, this podcast is the only podcast on the internet hosted by us.
I don't believe it.
Oh, well, I guess we'll have to figure it out.
Maybe. Who knows?
On this episode, ladies and gentlemen at home, and boys and girls, children, I don't know, whoever's listening, we will be talking about the news of last week, and we're going to give a review of Marvel's Doctor Strange. Don't forget, before we get any further though, you can listen to this podcast, every episode of it, as it comes out, on SoundCloud, YouTube, and eventually it'll be up on iTunes as soon as iTunes can get it processed. So don't forget about that. Subscribe to us in any ways you can. That way you can, know when we post new episodes. But now, the best way to get to know each other, by far, is by finding out what our favorite movies and our favorite genres are. So Josh, why don't you start?
Alright, so it's kind of weird because they're not in the same category. My favorite genre that I just absolutely love is horror films. They're my thing, man. And there's exciting things going on in horror that are coming, and I'm just so happy about it. And then my favorite movie is actually Wreck-It Ralph. Not horror at all, but I mean, maybe it's a little scared to like 4-year-olds, but it's still good. Yeah, it's a good animated movie.
My favorite genre, I don't actually know. I like thriller movies a lot. Thrillers are really good. Get your blood racing. I also enjoy horror movies, or adventure. I'm a big adventure fan too. Anyway, and my favorite movie of all time, nobody's heard of probably on listening to this, is a film from 1956 called The Searchers, starring John Wayne, and directed by John Ford. It's like a masterpiece. It's about like racism, and it's amazing. It's great. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. So
I know what I need to watch.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into some of the news of the last week, Josh. How does that sound?
Do it.
So,
I want to hear everything. Tell me.
The first story I'm going to talk about, Tom Holland. If you've seen Captain America: Civil War, it was Spider-Man. I guess spoilers for that movie if you haven't seen it in the past 6 months since it's been out or whatever. He was Spider-Man, and we all know new Spider-Man movie coming out next year. Should be good, hopefully. Now it's under Marvel's control, so it should be good. He just signed a 6-movie deal with Marvel. And so that means we're going to get 6 new Spider-Man movies,
Hopefully it's not just reboot after reboot like Fantastic Four.
Right.
I'm hoping there's some continuity going on there.
Well, they said they were going to do the origin again. It's a reboot, but they're not going to show you how he becomes Spider-Man because we already know that. We've seen it 180 times.
So it's a reboot, but not starting at the origin?
Well, right, because what we saw in Captain America, we saw he was already Spider-Man. So we're just going to, I'm assuming that the new movie will pick up after Captain America. They might allude to how he became it, or do it at the opening credits like they did in Batman vs Superman or something. But we don't talk about Batman vs Superman.
No, we don't. Although I hear the Ultimate Edition's better. I haven't gotten to see it yet, but I need to watch it. I'm told it's leagues better.
Really? It's 3 hours or something, right?
I would sit through it if it's better than what we got.
I would sit through better Suicide Squad too, but that's a whole different discussion. The next bit of news. Universal, the wonderful people who have made all the Transformers, which are my favorites. That was sarcasm, if you didn't catch it.
Yeah, he rolled his eyes. You didn't see it, but it was lovely.
I hate those movies with a passion. They're making a live-action Voltron movie based off of the anime. I do not know who created the anime initially. I didn't do research. What do you think I am? So I don't know. I think I don't think Michael Bay's attached to it at all. Thank God, because he's too busy making Ninja Turtles. Or not anymore. I think those movies got shut down.
Actually, well, they should. Those were awful too.
And he's too busy. I don't know, just doing what he does best.
So making bad movies and making lots of money.
Exploding things. Yeah. That should be interesting. I wasn't a huge Voltron fan. I didn't follow it or anything. I know about it, but I'm a Blockbuster guy. I'll go see blockbusters just because I'll spend my money on movies. just because I like movies a lot, you know. Next bit of news: Quentin Tarantino, our favorite, a really good director that I like a lot. He's retiring. He's doing 2 more movies, and that's it.
Which is such a shame.
I know.
It's upsetting because
Yeah.
he's eccentric, but like he makes really good movies. Especially like I think the action genre is really losing something there. It's upsetting because
Yeah.
like it's not like some of the old action where, at least to me, it has some of the old feel to it, but like there's actual story there. I think a lot of old action, you have a good chance of falling out of that and just having action itself.
Right.
It's upsetting.
And he really knows how to write like character. He has like so many good character moments. I think his best film is Jackie Brown. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if a lot of people have seen it, but it's like his like they call it blaxploitation because that was kind of a genre back in the 70s. And it's about a lady named Jackie Brown, and like Robert De Niro's in it, and Samuel L. Jackson's in it, and it's just like 3 hours, and it's amazing. But of course, Pulp Fiction, you know, you can't really get much better than that.
Yeah.
I loved Hateful Eight, and I love pretty much all his movies, except for what was the one he did with it was like Grindhouse or something, where like it was like Kurt Russell when he was like driving a car, and they had like 4 lady assassins or something.
I think so.
Yeah, it was not very good, but you know, I don't think he considers that one. I like Inglourious Bastards a lot too. That one's really good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, because it was so different. It was like half the movie were in different languages, like French and German. You know,
Which is so interesting because there's a lot of movies that go in American theaters that if they're not in English, people walk out. When I worked at a movie theater, there was a Spanish movie that was playing. It didn't specifically say it's all in Spanish, so we'd had droves of people just leaving every showing because of that. Yeah. They would not read the subtitles, and they were mad. They're like, "Why didn't it say anything?" We're like, "We didn't make the movie. What are you talking about?"
And it's weird because like some of the best movies ever made are foreign films. Like Seven Samurai it's all in Japanese, and it's an older movie, but it's great. Or Pan's Labyrinth, that's all in Spanish. So that's interesting. Yeah, I think it's sad that he's retiring. I think partially he's retiring because he doesn't want. He hates the digital medium now. He hates how it's going all digital, and like projection is digital now, not film stuff. And like, but here's the thing, Tarantino, if you're listening, I know you are. You can still film on film. It's a little more expensive, but then you do what you do with Hateful Eight, release some on film projectors and release some digital. I just think that he's just kind of being a baby about it, and maybe he says he just wants to do 10 films because the older he gets, the worse he's gonna get. I don't think that's true. Some of Hitchcock's stuff when he was a lot older was better than when he was younger. Because he had more experience behind him.
Yeah, why doesn't he just look at how his box offices are doing, and if they're still acclaimed? Like, I know Pulp Fiction, everyone's going to always remember that because it's a cult classic, but if you compare, like, some of his beginning films to the ones that he's producing and, directing and putting out now, if they're doing better, then he's obviously wrong.
Right.
So, that didn't make any sense to have any merit. But yeah, to say that you want to stop because you're gone to the digital age, and you don't want to be a part of it, I mean, you can take your ball and go home, but it doesn't make any sense because you can reach wider audiences, and then you can do a lot with digital that you just couldn't do with film.
And it's cheaper.
A lot cheaper.
I was watching, HBO has a show called Project Greenlight about like they pick a person to direct this movie, and like they direct it, and it's like this whole contest and stuff. I was gonna enter, but I didn't because I chickened out at the last minute. But this guy wanted to shoot on film, and they said it was going to add $300,000 to the budget. Ooh. Yeah, and it was a $3 million movie, so $3,300,000, and it's like so they said you can either choose film or you can choose extra days of shooting, and he's like, I want to do film because film's important, and like that'd be cool to shoot on film. Like, don't get me wrong, like it'd be a cool experience, but it's you lose money.
Yeah, it's too expensive, and it's just more difficult overall, I think, to get a finished product with that because it's so much easier, I would say, to edit on digital than it would do to film. I mean, you can, and it's a nice artwork, but I mean,
well, even if you film on film, you typically now won't edit on film. They scan it through a computer to edit on a computer, and then they rescan it to put it back on film to project it onto film.
But if you want to go to that, why not do the entire process? Because by then it's like, okay, you're already now using a digital form, So what was the whole point anyway? You might as well just shot on digital because most digital either is as good or almost as good as film, and then they're making stuff now that's going to be better. It's going to be in 7 and 8K,
Right.
and film's supposed to be up like about 6.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think we could do a whole episode talking about that, but let's move on to the news story of the week, which is, listen, ladies and gentlemen at home, I'm a Queen super fan. All right, Night at the Opera is their best album. Fight me if you must. But they've been in production or pre-production or planning or whatever of a Queen movie, Freddie Mercury biopic for years now. Sacha Baron Cohen, from Borat fame and other things, was supposed to play him, but now it's Ryan Malik, which I don't know if I'm saying that right, from Mr. Robot, which I hear is great, which I have not seen, and Bryan Singer from X-Men, who's directed in like 4 or 5 X-Men movies at this point. I'm set to direct, I think, after he does 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea remake. It'll be interesting to see, because, Freddie Mercury, I'm interested to see if they delve into his AIDS and stuff, because he had AIDS. That's how he died,
Yeah.
Because if they do, it could be, I think the Oscars kind of like that kind of stuff too. But I also think it could be interesting because he was like a very early public case of, very, very somebody who's out in the public eye that had AIDS, and like they didn't know what it was initially, he kind of kept quiet on it just because, that's kind of a personal thing. Mm-hmm. And so it would be interesting to see how they dive into that, and if like Ryan Malik's going to lose weight for the role, or if they're going to do it digitally.
I wish they'd do it digitally because you can get so many health risk and problems by doing it. I know. I mean, like it's part of the art if you're that kind of actor, but you can get so many health problems from either gaining a bunch of weight or losing a bunch or something like Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Like I think he already has gout. I think it's him or someone. It's either him or another actor that gained a bunch of weight. But yeah, it's terrible. It's bad for you.
Yeah. I mean, I know Tom Hanks lost a bunch of weight for Philadelphia. I think it was maybe he played a guy who had AIDS, right? I think it was Philadelphia. He lost a bunch of weight for that. So it could be interesting, and Queen being, the mega rock stars they are, could be interesting to do. I would have chosen Scorsese to direct it because he can direct a hell of a biopic. But Bryan Singer, we'll see. It's not a blockbuster. I haven't seen anything Bryan Singer's done that hasn't been a blockbuster. So
I'm sure that's been a drawer for this. Besides it being Queen, is that name. So that's probably one reason why they're picking a big director.
Yeah, I think so. I think it could be interesting. I don't know when they're supposed to go into production or anything. I think he's getting ready to do 20,000 Leagues remake, which should be interesting as well because that's a fairly old movie, which is really good, but should be interesting to see. I'd prefer them not do a reboot, but whatever, Again, that's a whole other episode of reboots and stuff we could talk about. But folks, that's the news of the week. How do you feel about that? Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about Doctor Strange, Marvel's latest voyage into the film, and so we'll do a summary of the movie, a kind of and then a spoiler free kind of discussion, like what we liked about it, or like if we liked it or not, and then after that we'll let you know. We'll do a spoiler filled talk about in detail, shot for shot, maybe not that extensive, but we'll do a pretty good discussion. So yeah, here we go. Tell them about the movie, Josh.
All right, so just real quickly, let's go over the synopsis. This is the official synopsis that I could find. It's Dr. Stephen Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Life changes after a car accident robs him of the use of his hands. When traditional medicine fails him, he looks for healing and hope in a mysterious enclave. He quickly learns that the Enclave is at the front line of a battle against unseen dark forces bent on destroying reality. Before long, Strange is forced to choose between his life of fortune and status, or leave it all behind to defend the world as the most powerful sorcerer in existence. This was released on November 4th, 2016 in the United States. Currently, as of us shooting this, which is November 9th, 2016, it's rated 8 out of 10 on IMDb. On Rotten Tomato, it's 90%. On Metacritic, it's 70%. Doctor Strange has a runtime of 115 minutes, so just under 2 hours. It's rated PG-13. It's an action-adventure fantasy, so, you should really love it. On CBS, they report that Doctor Strange has made $85 million on opening day in North America, or opening weekend, excuse me. The LA Times reports that the opening weekend in China it made 44 million, and to this point, globally it's made 325.4 million dollars box office.
$300 million box office. That's pretty crazy. I mean, Marvel and Disney. I mean, they definitely know how to bring butts to seats. Sometimes they have terrible flops, like Lone Ranger and stuff, which would make no sense because they delve a bunch of money into marketing, but then nobody shows up. I don't know. It's weird. So I guess let's do a spoiler free. Do we like it or do we not like it? Just a general kind of thing. I guess I'll start. I liked the movie. I thought it was really. I thought it was good. There were parts of it that were, but then parts of it that were very formulaic. Very formulaic. Marvel. The villain I think was weak, as all Marvel movies are. I think the origin formula, and you can't do a whole lot different with an origin movie, especially coming from comics, because a lot of them are very similar. Right. But I just feel like it being an origin movie, it's kind of tough to get into new territory first, because you have to establish everything, and that's why I think sequels to these movies are almost better, just because they've already established the world, and then they can go into the more weird stuff. However, I do think the weird stuff they do get into, the magic they get into and stuff in the movie, I think is awesome. It looks awesome visually. The movie flows a lot like Iron Man. I mean, the movie's pretty much just Iron Man. The plot of Iron Man 1 is Doctor Strange. That was the same with Ant-Man. Ant-Man was the same. I think Ant-Man's a better movie than this, which is surprising because I was not looking forward to Ant-Man when it came out. And parts of it were better, I think. But yeah, what about you?
I was going to ask real quick, are you a comic book fan, and I guess specifically Marvel?
Like I don't directly read the comics. I've read a few issues or whatever. Mm-hmm. But Marvel wise, I've liked the movies better. Yeah, the movies I like better. But comic wise, I don't really delve into it too much. I have a little bit, but I mainly have read Marvel because that's all I had here at the house.
Right. I know, when I think of Doctor Strange, I think of Doctor Hugo Strange, because there's two. Yeah, so I'm a DC fan going into this. DC Comics, DC animated movies, DC video games. I'm so disappointed with DC movies, but I thought this was a really good movie, especially compared to some of the other ones. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the Avengers, which some people might scoff at or not be happy with. Mm. But no, I agree. It did follow a lot like Ant-Man, and I thought Ant-Man was done really well too. Deadpool and all of that stuff. So Marvel's really kicking it up, I think, with their production quality. I would say that some of their secondary characters in the movie weren't fleshed out enough to the point to where we care enough for them. And then I agree that they made a villain who's more of a flat character, and we don't understand his pain enough to connect with him and see him as just a human. We just see him as like a naive monster of sorts. Yeah. And I think it would have added a lot had we gotten that more in-depth feel to him. But I think Benedict did a great job at selling the role, and I agree the CGI was on point, and that's what kept my attention, was him and the CGI.
The thing Marvel does really well is cast. Even if they cast to a flat character, the people that cast are good. They do the best with what they're given, always. So that was a spoiler free kind of thing. Now, if you don't want to hear, listen, I'm not gonna be mad if you tune out for a little while, because we're gonna dive in. Please listen though, because we need you to listen. We'd like you to, but I won't be mad. So spoilers start here. I don't know what time, but spoilers start here. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, go out and see it. Come back, watch it. It's very good. So I guess let's start with the character Doctor Strange, and just how you feel about him. I didn't know a whole lot about him when I went into it. I knew he was a comic. I knew he did magic. I knew Marvel typically didn't go the magic route. They went all technology route, which is fine because it's 2016. Technology's everywhere. They did it with magic with Scarlet Witch, I guess, in the second Avengers or whatever. Captain America.
They didn't touch on it really.
Right. And so this one they actually deal with magic. They actually deal with him the ancient one, played by Tilda Swinton, which grew on me. I didn't like her at first, but she grew on me throughout the movie.
Really, you didn't like her?
No, I didn't like
It was
the
interesting.
I thought it was interesting. I didn't like the idea of her being the Sorcerer Supreme, and for no like particular reason. I just thought like that's a kind of a weird choice, weird casting choice. But she came through at the end. I thought by the end of it, it really grew on me and I liked it a lot. But I thought him as a character was again very close to, at least in the movie, very close to Iron Man. Arrogant. He's rich. He's a surgeon. Has nice cars. Gets the women. He was, I guess, dating Rachel McAdams, who I don't know what character name. Christine. That's right. Which she was very forgettable, I think, in the movie.
I was going to touch on that a little bit later because there's something really specific that I think that they really failed on, and it just immediately threw me out of the movie.
Yeah. But I guess so. Doctor Strange or Stephen Strange gets his powers, or he crashes his car, driving super fast to this I guess gala or some kind of award thing he's getting, right? And he takes this really nice car, speeding through the hills of New York, or I think it was New York, right? Where he's from, something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, was it New York?
I'm fairly certain it was New York.
Yeah.
And I think he was going to a thing that was Christine, because remember they were going on a date.
Yeah, that's right.
Because, yeah.
He crashes and loses. He wakes up in the hospital, and of course he goes back to the hospital he works at, and finds out that he had several surgeries and loses the use of his hands. He can use his hands, but they're very shaky. He can't be this, surgeon with shaky hands, obviously.
Yeah, he had like extensive nerve damage.
Yeah, and which brings him into, he starts fighting with Christine, and they do their typical their thing where they fight, and she stops talking to him, and he, then he leaves the country to go, or he bumps into somebody. That's right, I forgot about that. He bumps into somebody that tells him about this guy who was paralyzed from the waist down, couldn't move, and then he went to therapy and stuff, and then eventually he disappeared, and he came back, and he was walking just fine, and just,
What do you think of that?
I think it was kind of, it felt like they were kind of, out of ideas. They, wrote that in at the last minute, and we need to get away for Doctor Strange to get from here to there.
That's what I thought.
Let's write in a character real fast and figure out.
And I don't know if because you and I haven't read the comic books, excuse us that we haven't. First off, he did a good job at least from what I read, maybe not what I saw, but what I read, keeping to the origin story of all that section so far. But since that guy's going to be in the next movie, I think he's going to be. He was in the end cutscene.
Right. Yeah, it should have some.
If he's in some way, if he has some importance that you and I don't really know about yet.
That's very true. And like I said, since we haven't read the comic, I don't know. But it did kind of, for the movie's sake, it kind of felt just it kind of felt out of nowhere kind of thing. Yeah, it's and I get Marvel. They're trying to people have read the comic and stuff, but it didn't really work for a movie only audience.
And what bothers me is he comes to the fence and he's just like, hey, talk to me. And then the guy's like, oh, I know you. You're the guy who pretty much said fuck off. And then he's like, but wait, I need your help. And then the guy's like, okay, I got you. It's wait a second, there's no, they should have had, to me, I'd say that there should be some kind of bickering. I get that this guy might be more compassionate, and you could be like, oh, well, he went through the sorcery school, so blah, blah, blah. It's well, he obviously didn't follow all the tenets, or he would still be there.
Right.
So, it just, he gave it the information to him too easy, and it goes back to what you're saying, he was just used just to get him from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And it made it weird for me.
Yeah, it did feel like they needed to be more they could have made it, maybe even just an extra 5 minutes of the movie of him trying to convince the guy to give him information versus him. They do it in the same spot. He finds the guy playing basketball. He's like, I need your help. The guy says no. A minute later, he's like, okay, here's the information. It's why did you do that? I wouldn't do that to a stranger on the street, And they could have even made it where Doctor Strange was or Stephen Strange, whatever, was kept bugging him day after day after day, and then finally he gets fed up and gives him some information. Then they could have done something like that, and it would have been a little better. But him to just kind of all of a sudden give him the information,
After this guy had told him no and said pretty much go off and do your thing and die, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's all right.
So after that, I guess he goes. Where was it at? What was the? Do you remember? It was a different country.
In India.
It was in India, and he goes to find the group of people to help him learn to. He goes there presuming that they're going to help him learn. They have some kind of medicine or something to help him heal his hands, so he can get back to his normal life.
Being a kick-ass doctor.
Yeah, of like saving lives and like there's a really good scene I thought when he was doing surgery, and they were naming off songs. He was trying to guess the song. I was like, that's really funny. That was a really good scene, I think.
And especially when the nurse tried to say that he was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That made me smile.
That's really good.
Yeah, so he gets into a fight. I forgot. He gets into a fight with Christine. About he's just kind of he's very arrogant and kind of like once he loses his hands, he kind of like loses relationships with his people. I guess kind of becomes a dick to everybody else. Which I guess you're going through a hard time, but whatever. It's kind of a douche move on his part. So they get into a fight, and he flees. Kind of stops talking to her, and gets there, and meets the Ancient One, I guess, or meets Mordo, which is his name.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, you have it right, Mordo. That's the character played by Chiwetel.
Yeah,
I think it's Chiwetel Ejiofor. Is that how you say it?
I let's hope so.
He was in 12 Years a Slave. He was brilliant in 12 Years a Slave, and several. Yeah, he's good in this too. Several movies. He meets him, and then events happen. He becomes eventually. We'll get into it. Becomes Doctor Strange. So let's go back. Let's back up and talk about Christine, played by Rachel McAdams, who I think she's a good actress. I think she's she's good in most of the things she does. I think she's good in this. I just think her character is very flat. It was kind of just like it felt shoehorned in, kind of a love interest to keep us interested.
And you shouldn't have to just. We don't need romance in every single movie.
Right.
And to me, it gets monotonous. It gets predictable, and I'm just like, oh, okay, here's another romance, and it's in everything all the time, always now.
Yeah.
I hate it.
And especially every Marvel thing too, even Guardians of the Galaxy, which I know you didn't like, right? Yeah, I felt like the tension between him and whatever her face was just kind of like it was cool. I like the movie a lot, but it was like not necessary. And I think Marvel, they focus on the love stuff last. Like if you're gonna do a love story, do a love story. And like have superhero things and make the love like important in the movie. Mm-hmm. Don't make it look at Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire, which I thought was great. He like loved Mary Jane a lot, and like the movie's like around his relationship with Mary Jane and also what's going on, and it's like important to the role because like Doc Ock will take Mary Jane and stuff, and like that becomes part of the movie. But with this one, she's just kind of there as a way for him to help like to heal him when he gets hurt. Because they'll teleport back.
Yeah, and to help show his character change more clearly. So yeah, definitely just a flat character.
He's doing stuff for her, but she's only in half the movie, maybe, right? Like she's
a lot.
She's in like part of the movie, and then she kind of disappears for most of it until the end or whatever.
So are we going through characters, or do you want me to give you some of the problems specifically with scenes with her?
Go for it. Yeah, we're talking about her.
There's and these scenes are real close together. She's getting called away, and this is right after their surgery, and they're face to face, and this is right after he apologizes. They're looking at each other, they're staring at each other, and she leans in and kisses his cheek, and that immediately I was like, why? Like that's the moment. Like if you're gonna do a romance, that's the kiss moment. That's kiss, yes, because the audience is expecting it, and by this point, if you're going to follow that formula, you should follow it, because when you get to that point right there, at least for me as an audience member, it's going to be a big letdown, because you've done all this hype train all the way up to this point, and then kiss on the cheek. It's like, okay. Another thing that I noticed was, because you just brought this up, when he's working on her, right? He dies on the table, and then his spirit comes over, and she's like, and she's all upset, and it's like, okay, that makes sense. But then like she gets over it really fast. Mm-hmm. And they've established that he's the intellectual one and she's the emotional one. Mm-hmm. Why is she not more emotional? And two, why does she not question it a little bit more? Right. And then three, it was established that he can control things within that world. Mm-hmm. why did he not have like put his hand on hers to guide her into putting the stuff into him, the medical instrument into him? These things don't make any sense.
It was probably a way to like show like that they work well together. Maybe like they can, he'll, that she has to have confidence in herself, kind of thing. Which I mean, like that's probably what it was. But I agree with you. Like he could have, helped more in that sense, I guess. If he can, we assume he can.
And in this situation, why would she just take all that at face value? Like, oh, okay, I can trust this guy. He's dead, and I've never seen any of this stuff before. But you know what? I'm gonna trust it. And then she doesn't freak out or anything when stuff's blowing up around her when Strange and the henchmen are fighting. To me, that didn't make any sense at all. Like I was like, again, with what you're saying, she's a flat character. She's not meant to feel. She's not meant to like truly be her own character. She's there to move along Strange.
That's what we call a plot device, boys and girls. She's a plot device. That's all she is. I mean, she's literally there to move plot forward, and that's the only reason. I did think the fight scene in the spirit world within the hospital like surgery room was kind of funny because like they would do something and like it would barely affect her.
No, yeah,
that was kind of cool.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's just for her character,
right.
it didn't do anything.
And I think maybe the whole thing about what you said about like her not questioning it more, maybe it's because she was trying to save his life and was so frantic. She's just like, oh, I'm freaked out for a second, but I have to get back to work to save him. Maybe.
But yeah, she would not like. Nor if you think of, sure, this is a fantastical world, but they're in real world standards. They've set themselves in our world. Who would be okay with that? Especially if it's someone that they've already established. They have deep connected feelings for one another.
Right.
So to me, she would have shown more emotion.
Yeah.
Especially when he actually like died. That second there when he died, and then he comes out and reveals himself to be the spirit.
She could have had a powerful
It's like
moment.
she could have like cried or freaked out, or like because there's the whole thing through the movie like where they're not together but they still love each other kind of thing, but they're not together. So she could have like expressed her love for him and stuff after he died. That moment because he gets stabbed at one point, I think, right? That's what the whole scene was after he gets stabbed, fighting the big baddie, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I think she was just kind of there, which is unfortunate because I like Rachel McAdams. I think her character could have been cool, and I think, like I said, I think in the comic her character becomes something, I don't know, like greater than what she is now. So. Which that'd be cool for the sequel maybe if she's in it. But I think Marvel's always had weak women characters, except for like Guardians of the Galaxy, which they had their characters were strong women characters, even though you didn't like even though like they kind of, it was still a male driven movie, which is fine. Like I have no problem with it. But like think of like Thor, like Jane and Thor, played by what's her face, Natalie Portman, is like, I hate the Thor movies anyway. I think they're fairly garbage, but
not much of a fan either.
Yeah, I think she who is a great actress, like she's playing Jackie soon, which is Jackie Kennedy. Like she's great and she's super intelligent in real life and stuff. But she played that character who was kind of just, even though she had more of a role in those movies than Rachel McAdams did in these, she still just felt very kind of like ditzy and very kind of like
she's the damsel.
Right, she's the damsel in distress versus when she could have been. And the second one they tried to include her more or something, but it just didn't work. Is what I'm trying to say. So they've never had super, even like Gwen Stacy in the last Spider-Man ones. Like she was strong and like their relationship was really cool and stuff together, but she just felt very kind of weak. Which it'd be interesting to see how Marvel does with Captain Marvel, because now it's a female Captain Marvel in the movies. Which they have a comic of female Captain Marvel as well, but they didn't go with the male route, which is interesting as well. But it's played by the lady from Room. I forget. I'm blanking on her name. Brie Larson is her name. Yeah, Brie Larson. She's playing Captain Marvel, so it'd be interesting to have a female lead in the Marvel movie versus like Scarlett Johansson, who's been in all the Avengers movies and is she's great in it, but she doesn't have
presence. Yeah, right. They haven't focused on her enough, and that's a shame because her character could be much more than just this sexually alluring woman. Like I'm sure that the character, once again, I'm not a Marvel fan, but going off of DC logic, there are several characters that are attractive, and they use the attractiveness, but that doesn't mean that's all that they are. Like they have a lot of really interesting, good qualities. Like for instance, for me, Catwoman would be the kind of thing. It's a sex symbol, but she has so many other qualities she uses. Just that's one of her motives of manipulation. And I wish they'd do that more.
as a character, she's been really well written and been the past Catwoman. Like in the Arkham game, she's like a really well written character, you know. And even though she's a sex symbol, you can still have it. Why can't you have a sex symbol and then be also have an interesting character and not just be like a ditzy, whatever.
So I hope they add that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I just think it was kind of a waste. They could have either made the movie about her more or just not have her at all, or make it where she was just kind of like I don't know. But they could have figured something else out. Luckily it wasn't that much of a part of the movie. It was kind of a part, but it was like she was in it maybe half an hour of the almost 2 hour runtime. So I wasn't affected by it too much. I learned to just kind of forget it, Mm-hmm. But now I guess we talk about Mordo, who's kind of like the sidekick of the role of the movie, but also who kind of gets Doctor Strange or Stephen Strange into the place to meet the Ancient One and stuff. I love Chiwetel Ejiofor. I think in everything he's done. He was great in 12 Years a Slave, which is a heartbreaking movie, and then he was great in The Martian with Matt Damon, which I loved, and I think he was great in that too, even though he has a very small part.
If you read the books, it's so disappointing.
Yeah, I know. I haven't read the book.
So good.
Yeah, I've heard great things. I think he's great in most of the things he does. I think he's great in this. I think he's his character's really, really good. I think it's. I mean, not great, but it's got moments that are really good.
Yeah, there are good moments.
Yeah, I think he's badass. Like he's really cool in his stuff, and the whole training sequence when he's training. Doctor Strange was a really good sequence, especially when he talks about finding the weapon. He has his weapon and stuff, and those boots that can make him like walk on air, which is really freaking cool. Mm-hmm. I thought his starting to like his kind of strict procedure on the rule of nature, or the rule of I guess the rule of nature.
Yeah.
How it like when Doctor Strange he gets the last Infinity Stone, which I figured we'd talk about near the end, which controls time, and he gets that and he starts messing with it, and then Mordo kind of comes in and freaks out because it's like you're messing with the law of nature and you can't do that, and that also affects their stuff
later on. Don't you worry, because when we talk, I have a big discussion point on that.
Oh, really? About the Infinity Stone?
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, that eventually leads like he's kind of his part's more of a sidekick role, which is fine. I figured they're gonna do something like that. He's in a pretty good portion of it, but it's not like he's not like the main. They don't focus on him a whole lot. Right. I think again he's portrayed really well. He takes everything the Ancient One says at face value versus thinking about it. He just kind of accepts it. Like her why she's so old. How she lives longer than she does, which I think is an interesting thing as well that we'll get into. But what do you have to say about his character?
Okay, so he played the character well, but I think, again, it was poorly written because we get to the end of the movie and he's left, or he's leaving. He's not going to come back to the Order, right? I didn't care. Not at all. It's like, this should be a powerful moment, like, especially not only for him to make such a big decision, because we're slowly seeing his character change, but Doctor Strange should also care to a degree, especially Wong, since they've been in the Order together, but there was like this okay, bye kind of thing. It made again another moment that could have been powerful and impactful and made the audience feel something, and it was missed.
I also think, to kind of add on that, the whole point of him leaving, like in the movie, he leaves because he doesn't agree with with what Doctor Strange is doing, with the whole like he feels betrayed by the Ancient One. Mm-hmm. He feels kind of like we kind of broke the law with the magic, with the time thing, and that just kind of like came out of nowhere.
Yeah, because she's gone now. Yeah. So what's the point of leaving the Order that needs to be rebuilt?
Right, that needs to be rebuilt, and it's like you were okay with him using time the whole movie, but at the end you were like, except for that one moment at the beginning when he first starts using time, but through the whole movie when he's dealing with time and when he's fighting, what's the big bad guy's name? I forget. Sorry, we'll get into whatever. We'll get into it. When he's fighting the big bad guy at the end. Dormammu is his name. Dormammu, when he's fighting Dormammu, and he does that great sequence of like it repeating,
Yeah, that was such a good
that was so good. He just kind of seemed like, oh, whatever, we'll just stay here and fight or whatever, and I guess they were caught in the time loop as well.
Yeah, so they wouldn't have known.
Yeah, but but then at the end he seemed to have known or something, which is weird. And then like he's like, oh, I'm gonna leave. This isn't right. We shouldn't do this. And then if you stay after the credits, you see that he kills somebody, and he's like, oh, there's too many sorcerers. I'm gonna take out all the sorcerers, meaning he's gonna be the bad guy or an influence in the sequel or whatever. So that just felt weird. That part of it, it's again, it kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, like I said, again, that would have been stuff where you would want to flesh that out and learn more about that character so that we care about it. Like, because at least for me, I don't care that he became bad. Like, there's nothing that made me care for that change at all.
And my guess is they're gonna maybe do that in the sequel, like how they did in like Winter Soldier. Like he was just Captain America. He was just kind of like, you find out like at the end that he is Bucky, or he is who he is, and then through, I guess, Civil War, you kind of learn more about their relationship, I guess. I think maybe they'll do that with the sequel. Like they'll go back and like, delve on like his character himself if he's in it. But it's like I shouldn't have to wait for the sequel to learn that.
Yeah.
Make it a longer movie. I know Marvel can afford to make it 2 hours versus, an hour and 45 minutes or whatever it was, hour and 55 minutes. Like you could have made it a little longer just to explain, show more of a change, or you didn't even have to make it longer. You could do it in the time frame they gave us. I don't know. Maybe they could have made it where like he was already questioning kind of the have a scene or two where he's questioning things before, or like while Doctor Strange is there, but like show him kind of questioning the methods of what they use before then, or him kind of being persuaded to the dark side, to quote another Disney property. They could have done something like a scene like that of him questioning stuff, and then at the end it'd be more of a payoff to say like, okay, he's against them now.
And I mean, I might be wrong, but for me, it felt like this movie, it worked more by focusing on action compared to some of the other ones. Because to me, it felt like a lot of the Marvel movies, they have action sequences, but they're just sequences. They're not like the overarching part of the movie. While in this one, there's a whole lot more action scenes, a lot more martial arts going on, which I thoroughly enjoy. That's why I like movies
Especially
like the Terminator.
Yeah, especially not the origins. Sorry to interrupt. Especially like the origins. There's not a main focus on action with origins. It's mainly just like origin, and then action at the end. This one had action throughout, which was nice.
Well, it's nice, but then we have problems like what we're talking about right now because they didn't focus on characters as much. So now we have flat characters that we don't care about. Right. So we're watching it for the action sequences.
Yeah. But I think it could have been written better. But ultimately we got what we got. So hopefully in the sequel, if he's in it, they'll delve more into it. Because I think there is potential there to have a great character, but it just wasn't. It wasn't played out well in this one. I think you can say that about a lot of the characters in the movie. It's like, except for Doctor Strange himself, there's a lot of great potential in the characters, all of them, but none of them played out to what they could have been.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I guess now we'll talk about. Let's talk about the Agent one and then leave Wong for the end, because Wong is, I think, my favorite. And then the bad guys, the villains too. But
Wong's my favorite.
Of the good guys, we'll talk about them first, and then we'll talk about good guys. About the bad guys.
Just real quick on I have a list here, and on positives, just the first word Wong.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Wong is great. We'll get to Wong. Let's talk about the Ancient One, played by Tilda Swinton, who is from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and a bunch of other movies. And
is she in The Matrix? I might be getting her mixed up.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I think I'm getting her mixed up.
I don't believe she's in The Matrix. She could have been in it because of this movie, which is, the Ancient One. It's a very old sorcerer. She's ancient, if you will. And somehow has stayed alive all these years. I don't know if they say how many years she's been alive.
I don't think specifically, because they don't know her age.
That's the whole mystery of the movie, is how does she get so old? It's how is she, right.
I think she said that she I think she actually told to a degree, because remember when she's talking on the balcony? Mm-hmm. I think she alludes to it. I think it's... I think it's thousands. I can't remember now either.
Listen, we saw the movie days ago, right? We forget. So.
Yeah, we promise that we've actually seen the movie, but it's when it's during the surgery how she elongates that time. I'm pretty sure she alludes to her age.
Yeah, I just have to remember. But I think she was. I think besides Doctor Strange, and Wong, she's the best character. She's the best character in the movie. I didn't like her at first. I thought at first she kind of just felt like a Yoda character that was just kind of for the sake of being Yoda at first, like the sake of being this master. But then as it went on, like she played it, I think, brilliantly as best she could play it. I thought her magic stuff was really cool. She was really good at it. But then also her the way she trained Doctor Strange to kind of believe in himself, kind of thing, was really cool as well. I know there's a whole controversy, which I don't want to get into too much, about the whole whitewashing part of it. Because in the comic, he is an Asian man, she's a white female.
That was one thing I immediately noticed.
Yeah, it's I didn't care too much. I get why people were frustrated. Again, I don't want to talk about politics on this podcast. But I mean, it's relevant to the movie, so it's kind of interesting because there was a controversy about it. It would have been interesting to see if they had an Asian man or even an Asian woman in the movie in the role.
Especially since both of our favorite characters, Wong, played by an Asian.
Yeah. But they didn't make. I'm glad they didn't make the whole movie void of Asian culture and Asian
That put us in the moment. If it was all just a bunch of Caucasian males and females, it just wouldn't feel right. Yeah. Especially over in that area, wouldn't feel right.
Wouldn't feel right. So I'm glad they did include a lot of it. But I thought that was a little strange at first. It could have been interesting to see if she was, played by an Asian male or female. But I thought, she was played really well by Tilda Swinton. I'm trying to think of what her. So the whole secret of her being the Ancient One is pulled from. She pulls from the dark dimension, I guess is what it's called, right?
Yes.
She pulls power from the dark dimension, and it's how she stays young. And the dark dimension is where Dormammu lives, who's the big bad guy, who's just a big head, which is stupid. But again, we'll get into it. She's very powerful. She can bend things at will, which is really cool. It's kind of almost like Inception when the buildings folding on themselves and have the whole fight sequence and all that.
I felt like Matrix kind of thing too.
Yeah. But I feel like we saw magic to that point to an extent, but we also didn't see a whole lot. I think they could have really got into magic a whole lot more than they did. They showed she makes the orange stuff come out of her hands and that's her thing, and they make the portals. She teaches them how to make the portals and stuff. That's cool. But I feel the magic was very almost tame in this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and maybe it's because they're trying to introduce people to the magic. They don't want to get them too freaked out at the beginning or whatever. But I think her being this all-powerful wizard, all-powerful sorcerer, I feel she could have done some really weird stuff.
Well, my thinking is they might I'm sure they had a big budget, but I feel if this movie does well, then they will put more money into the CGI because you don't want to just put droves of money into it and then it flop.
I believe the budget was $165 million, so they already doubled their money, almost tripled their money.
Oh yeah, so I'm sure they'll be adding even more CGI with that.
Right, but she won't be in the sequels because she obviously dies at the end, which I knew she was gonna do. I mean, it wasn't a huge mystery. Is she gonna die?
They could pull an X-Men and bring her back.
They could pull an X-Men. Maybe she's so powerful that she pulls an Xavier and comes back as a different person, a different looking person or whatever. Yeah, and so I think she was good. There's not a whole lot. I mean, they don't go into depth of who she is a whole lot. It's kind of just a very surface character, meaning you don't get into her core. You don't get into who she is on the inside, and she's kind of there to be the badass, of the whole thing, of the badass of the badass,
Yeah.
And she's there she's at the beginning to fight the villain, who's again the guy played by I don't even know the actor's name. My bad. The main bad guy before Dormammu, who's at the end. Played by Mads Mikkelsen. That's his name. Mads Mikkelsen is the actor's name.
Oh, good job.
Thanks. And yeah, so she's there to kind of stop him, and she's really there to keep order of the sanctuary that he's in, and teach the students.
I was gonna say that her most powerful scene was the very final scene that we see her in, because that actually, even though her character again is somewhat flat, I actually kind of cared. I was like, oh, and it wasn't any one thing except throughout the movie it wasn't not one thing, but what drove me was her last line. You'd think after I lived all these years I'd be ready, and I think she alluded to her not being ready, but I'm not. Right. And it's just such a strong and powerful line, because even if you aren't really attached to the character, you can understand that, because we're all going to die one day. And right. I mean, they have powerful just one line or a few sentences and Doctor Who and stuff like that, and it just makes you really involved in that scene.
Right.
If you took those lines out, the scene would lose all of its power.
Right.
Because after she gets to the point of her being this all powerful person, living all these, and it's like the reason she lives this old and pulls from the dark magic is because maybe she's afraid of dying.
Yeah.
Maybe that's I didn't even think about it till just now. It's like maybe the reason she pulls from this dimension that people don't typically pull from, or good people don't, is because she's afraid of death, and that's the thing she fears the most. And so I think that was a really interesting thing at the end to kind of sum up who she was. I think that told more about who she was that one line told more about who she was than the whole movie did.
Right.
Kind of summed up and like summarized who she was. I guess that's the same thing, summed up and summarized, whatever. But you know what I meant. It kind of told you all of her fears and stuff all at the end, which is good. I think that part was really well written. I agree, that scene was really well written. A very very touchy feely, which I think, very like emotional, which I think Marvel and Disney can do really well. They don't do it a whole lot, but they can when they do it. It's really good, especially like the I am Groot, we are Groot moment at the end of Guardians.
Yeah,
that was very very
sweet
like
moment.
tearjerker moment. Yeah, so I liked it. I liked her at the end. It was good, and especially when she slows down time and like you see the snowfall and stuff, and she even makes a comment about seeing the snowfall one last time or whatever, which is like, my heart,
It's like, can you stop?
So can you stop, please? I do not want to cry today. Thanks. Yeah, I think that was really good. And now for everybody's favorite, Wong.
No, not Wong.
Not
the
Wong.
villain.
Oh, we got okay. What's the villain now? Okay, fine. We'll say Wong for the very last, since he's
He's the
Supreme.
G. He's the one that made the movie.
Yeah.
so. Who the main bad guy played by Mads Mikkelsen? Do you have his character name? Can you look it up fast?
I can look.
Let's see what it is. Sorry, fans. Basically, his whole motive is the same motive as every Marvel villain, is to have like this ultimate power and to live kind of a long life kind of thing.
Caecilius?
Caecilius. Okay.
Is that right?
How you-
Kaecilius?
That sounds right to me. Caecilius, which I don't know if they say that a whole lot in the movie. They may have said it once or twice. I don't know. I think it's Caecilius.
Talk more about Dormammu.
Right.
His name is said more, which it's funny because he's in the last 20 minutes maybe. But his whole thing is to be, I guess, to have this long life, to be the most powerful wizard, sorcerer. I keep calling them wizards. Whatever, they're wizards. To be the most powerful sorcerer, I guess, was his motivation.
I thought it was because he wanted. Well, at least he tells Strange that it's because he doesn't want people to die and suffer anymore. He wants to protect the world in his own way.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess he wanted. Yeah.
But I'm not I'm sure that's his face value. But from what it seems like, because it didn't look like he was trying to give over any power to his disciples.
Right.
Like he took them along for the ride, but it was more like, come on, so you can help me kind of thing.
Right.
Henchman role.
Yeah.
Like I got the feeling that he just wanted to be like, because in all the Marvel movies, like Iron Man 1, even the Ironmonger, whoever played by not Jeff Daniels, whatever his name is, he just wanted to be, the better Iron Man. He wanted to be, and all of them, they wanted, the villain in Guardians of the Galaxy, who I thought had a big problem with, just wanted to be the supreme, guy of everybody. And so that's
I feel like
Flat character.
yeah, all of them wanted to do that. Even in, Captain America: Civil War, which isn't really about a villain, even if it has a villain, but just wants ultimate power. All of them want ultimate power. It's like, I know, like people say you can't get much different with a villain. That's a lie. You can get a lot different with a villain. You can't, like my dad was saying that you don't want to give a whole lot more like information about villains or whatever because you don't want to sympathize with them. I disagree. I think it's good to sympathize with a villain.
Oh yeah, one of the best characters, at least in DC for me, is Victor Fries or Victor Fries, however you call him. And I would call him an anti-hero, but he can do good things. But he's doing it because he's trying to find a cure for his wife. So it's like, because then it makes a conflict with the audience. It's like, well, I don't like this guy because he does a lot of bad things, and he's just genuinely doesn't seem like a good guy. But his intention for why he started down this path, it was for good. It comes back to the thing like, you're an honorable person. Do you steal medication for your mom, or so that because you can't afford it, or do you let her suffer and die?
Right.
We all can connect with that. But if you're just like big bad villain, And you're just like, okay, that's a villain.
Yeah, or it's like the whole like the old story of like the dad stealing bread for the family from a market for the family because
Right.
like a family can't. Well, it's starving. It's like morally like it's wrong to steal, but it's also you don't want to let your family starve. And so I get that. But this character again with all Marvel movie characters at least didn't
Live up to that.
live up to that. I didn't have any kind of like I didn't really feel that the main characters were in danger at any time. Not even with Dormammu, but like especially with this dude, I didn't feel like they were like, oh sure he's a tough guy, but he's not like I didn't feel like they were in danger, and I also didn't care about him a whole lot. They're just kind of like, oh he's bad at the beginning of the movie versus there's his journey to becoming a bad guy wasn't shown at all. I know it's whatever an hour and 55-minute movie, but still it's like.
And he's supposed to be a master, but like if he's a master, that means that he is has a lot of wisdom, etc. So why would he change his mind based upon certain information and not talk to the Ancient One and then other masters?
Right.
Because it's obvious that all these other people care deeply, and I know they're like, well, he's stubborn and he's egotistical, blah blah blah, and they compare him to Strange, but would Strange, not given the catalyst of him, the main villain, would that mean that Strange then could have been that villain, could have filled that role?
Yeah.
Did that other guy just need a villain for him to become like Strange and be a good guy?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, his motives are very like up in the air. Like why be a bad guy? Like why
what made you change? Because they keep constantly like, well, comparing him to Strange, and they're going back and forth and forth about that, and it's brought up I think at least 3 or 4 times, and it's like, well then what made him change besides in learning information? How is information alone going to make him change all of his philosophy that he's been taught so far?
I mean, they could have done a backstory, just a simple flashback of like maybe this is me making up because I have no idea about the comic, but like maybe something tragic happened to him, and like through Dormammu, he figured out a way to help that tragic thing not be be better. If he was dying, Dormammu offered him longer life, like eternal life. Maybe even that little motive could have been more than just like, oh, I want to be a bad guy.
Right.
Like, it felt like he just like woke up one day and he's like, you know what, I just really want to be bad today. Like, that's the thing I want to do most of all today is just be bad, and that's what he was.
And his ending, to me, I'm interested at least to see what happens to him at the end. Like, that's the most interesting thing to me, because he ends up getting, like, burnt alive, more or less, or he crumbles.
Right.
But, like, he's going to a place where time doesn't really exist, so, like, is he constantly in pain? Is he dead? What happens to him? I like that they left it ambiguous, but I do want to know.
Yeah, and that's somebody else brought up a point. I think it's my dad again. He brought up a point like he's like, I wish Marvel movies would stick with one villain. Like they wouldn't kill off the villain in the same movie, because in the comics they're around for a long time.
Yeah.
They're around for a long time in the comics. It's like you don't have to kill them off in the one movie. Like you don't have to do that. And so, but they always do. Like they always kill off. There's a big villain, the overhead villain that like runs everything, like Dormammu or like Thanos, whatever his name is that's the big villain.
Yeah, Thanos and Darkseid.
Yeah, it's like those are the big ones, but like in every movie there's individual like smaller bad guys that die in that movie. It's like, well, you don't have to do that. You don't have to bring them back necessarily in the next sequel, but bring them back 2 sequels away or whatever. Or have their influences, yeah. So that'd be interesting. I've always had a problem with Marvel villains in most every movie that's they've had. I'm trying to think of one that I didn't have a problem with. I mean, most of them I did, and it's not like I don't think it's the director's fault. I think it's just I feel like Marvel, they're pumping out these movies so fast now. They just kind of like they have a formula and it's written by a formulaic in a formulaic way, and so they just kind of have to spit it out and like that's hope for the best. That's just how it has to be, which sucks because like I said, he had a lot of potential, I think, to be something greater, but he just wasn't tapped on, so maybe they'll do in the sequel if he's in there at all. Yeah. And then Dormammu, the big baddie, who's just a giant head that's all he is really. I mean, unless he's a giant that we didn't see the rest of his body.
We saw his hand.
No, that's right.
Because he got crushed one of the times.
right.
So we saw a hand. So we have a head and a hand.
He has a head and a left hand. That's great. He was a deformed child, and that's all he got away with.
That's why he's so pissed off in the movie.
Exactly. I guess he's a part of the Dark Dimension. He's in the Dark Dimension, but he looks like he's just like a part of the cloud, like a cloud in the Dark Dimension.
He is the Dark.
He is the Dark Dimension. Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm going to Dormammu Dimension. I'm gonna fly inside Dormammu. That's fun. Yeah.
Be one with Dormammu.
One with Dormammu. And so they didn't really have time to dive on his character. I don't think does he die? Does he die, Dormammu? Does he?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't die. So maybe he'll be an influence in the next movies. Like he'll be, because there's a great sequence in the movie where Doctor Strange figures out that he can do a loop with the time gem, do a loop, and he kind of just he's like, either you stop terrorizing the city or the world, or you're stuck in this time loop where you kill me every single time, but I just come back because we're in a time loop. So,
all right, you ready to hear the bombshell?
I'm ready to hear the bombshell. Let me hear it.
All right, so there's the time loop. Since we're starting on this,
Yes.
So earlier in the movie, it's foreshadowed about, and it says that you can rip pretty much and destroy time and space or not be in existence anymore. Right. So why is that not applicable there? And you could say, oh, okay, well, it's because we're in this place that doesn't have time. It's like, okay, but it was established that because there's a rift open, it's happening on the planet Earth. So why aren't there consequences there? Secondly, it was established that by rewinding time, you can bring people back to life, Wong, and that you can fix things that are built. Okay, so now we've taken the bad guy out of the world because now he's in the dark place. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you something. Why is the Ancient One still dead? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So it's either one, they're not following their own movie logic because he could have rewound it all the way back and fixed all the places and stopped the Ancient One from dying, or two, they made Strange a jackass. Because you could say, oh, well, Strange wouldn't have thought of that. They've already established that Strange is a highly intelligent person who does think of things in that manner. Hence one reason why he was able to help bring Wong back. Yeah. So it's been established that you can bring people back by rewinding time, that by rewinding time it's not actually causing anything bad to happen because they did it multiple times, and that he's intelligent enough to come up with that idea and do it. So my question is the Ancient One truly dead? Will we see her in the future? And then two, if we don't, why? Why don't we see her?
Because they rewind it pretty far. They rewind it to where none of the city that they get destroyed is destroyed.
Yeah, in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's like how far between she died and they went to Hong Kong.
Yeah. But it didn't establish there's you can only rewind it this far.
Right.
That wasn't established because remember when he rips the page out, how much time between that happened and he was able to bring the page back.
Right.
So it could be length of time, but it wasn't established that was the tell.
Unless it's like he can focus it, like he can focus on one thing to just reverse that one thing. Does that make sense? Like the book, if he focused on the book, it would reverse time for just that book.
Well, yeah, but then that's when the rift came. Right. That was the problem. Yeah. So
I don't know. Is it going to be a thing in the sequel? Like, is him rewinding the time that much going to create some kind of tear in the dimension, and they get really weird and bring in things of since they have infinite dimensions in the movie of the universe, are they going to have an infinite, or other Doctor Stranges come in that are that'd be interesting to see if they play into that, because if he rewinds time that much, maybe there's going to be a consequence at the sequel. But they didn't touch on it in this movie.
And it makes me wonder, too, going to the end, because I don't know why you talking about that brought into my memory. Is Doctor Strange, do you think, going to be in a future Avengers movie, or Thor be in a Doctor Strange future movie, or Doctor Strange be in a Thor movie since he made an appearance?
I think every character is going to be in the Avengers Infinity War, which is coming, I guess, 2019. They're even talking about maybe even the Netflix characters being in there, which I don't know if that's true or not.
So happy.
Right, me too. But I think he's going to be in there, and I assume he's going to be in the new Thor, which is coming out, I guess, next year, because he makes an appearance or have some kind of influence in the new Thor, which I don't know. I don't think that teaser at the end was just for nothing.
Oh, yeah, I don't either.
And to go back to your thing about bringing back reversing time. Why didn't he just reverse it before his hands got messed up?
I thought about that too.
It's like, well, then if he does that, nothing else would exist, and so he shouldn't exist if you follow Back to the Future logic.
To a degree, yeah. But then you could also ask, why didn't he pull from the dark place to fix his hands? Like, what made him decide not to do that?
Yeah.
And by
'Cause
what
it's a higher
moral
purpose
standing? It just, yeah, but explain it, show it. Like in the film, you could be like, yeah, he rose above it. It's like, okay, but like the ancient one didn't rise above it. This other just random dude didn't rise above it.
Yeah.
So why? And he obviously doesn't care too much about the rules since he kept rewinding time.
Right.
But it was nice that he put it back. I like that he actually did that. That showed character change too. But then when Wong brought up that he needed to practice to become masterful and then he could use it more. So now we know, okay, well then he's probably going to get it back at some point.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I also feel like this is the same problem I had with Star Wars, even though this isn't a Star Wars podcast, but it wasn't talking about Star Wars. But I had the same issue with it. He learns the time frame isn't clear of when Doctor Strange learns his powers versus him being really good at his powers. Because like it seems pretty quickly that he learns I can have powers, then he just knows how to use them instantly. Yeah. Almost. It's like you could have built it up a little more. Like in Star Wars, Rey's character, who I thought her character was fine, but like she just kind of seems to. She's like, she like finds out from Han Solo that the Force exists, and then 4 scenes later she's using the Force. It's like you just found out it exists. Yeah. How do you know?
Even though in the first few films it's established you have to work at it.
Right.
Yeah, but we could talk about that at a different podcast. But yeah, I felt the same with him. It's like he just kind of used his powers all of a sudden. It's like I know he went through school and they wanted to show all the training, but have a montage, have a freaking 80s, a Rocky like 4-level montage of him training with his powers, and you have that great scene of him like on the mountain. She's like, the Ancient One throws him on a mountain and says like, you have to make a portal to get out of here, you're gonna die, and he does it. It's like that, that was cool, but like
predictable,
right? Predictable. He's gonna make it out, obviously, because it's in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, and I knew that she was going to do it when they did. When she opened the portal and I saw it was on the other side, I was like, I know it's about to happen. Yeah. It's about to be some cheeky shit going on. So, yeah.
All right, so that was him. Dormammu's still alive. Presumably, he's going to be an influence in the next movies. I assume maybe an influence in Thor. I don't know about that, but it'd be interesting to see. Now, Wong. We'll talk about Wong.
The best character. I want to say real quick. Mm-hmm. Wong is like the Hispanic guy from Ant-Man.
Right.
Do you know which guy I'm talking about? Yeah. The guy who gives the story? Mm-hmm. I want just a movie based on that Hispanic guy because the way he spoke and the way he told the story, oh my god. Yeah. So like, I would be okay with just a Wong movie and call it Wong.
Again, that Marvel's Wong. That'd be pretty great. I think the Hispanic guy from Ant-Man, I did not like at first. He grew on me near the end. I thought he was annoying at the first of the movie. Not the case with Wong. Wong was always funny from the beginning.
Oh yeah, he was.
I like how it was like he was like a tough guy, at the beginning, like don't do this, and then that scene where he mentions Beyonce, and then like because he's the keeper of the library for people who haven't seen it. He's like he guards the library, and at one point Doctor Strange brings up Beyonce, and he's like, he just looks at him like, Beyonce? Who the heck is Beyonce? And the next scene, he has an iPod, and you hear all the single ladies playing in the iPod.
That made me laugh.
Yeah, as Doctor Strange steals books, from the library, and it was like that was really well done comedically, and he's just really funny. What were some other funny things that he did in the movie?
I thought it was contagious when he started laughing.
Oh yeah.
And Strange was like, "What?" at the end of the movie, and he just lost his shit. I was like, "Oh, Wong." Yeah. That made my heart happy.
Because it was funny because they set up at the beginning, or set up like he doesn't laugh. That's the whole setup of the movie is he just doesn't laugh.
The whole setup of Doctor Strange, Wong doesn't laugh.
It's the first line of the movie. I'm Doctor Strange. Wong doesn't laugh.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, okay, thanks, bye. End of the movie. But then he lets off this like huge. I don't even know what he laughs about. Do you remember what he laughs about?
It was just a one-liner that he gives. I don't remember what the one-liner was.
And he just like lets off this like really satisfying, just like belly laugh. That's really great. Yeah, I thought he was a good character, and he's a chubby dude. I mean, he's fit, but he's the comedic relief of the movie. Even though the cape was really funny as well.
Yeah, the cape was good.
Yeah, because the cape is Doctor Strange's artifact. Yeah, but Wong is just he's really great. I really enjoyed his character a lot.
And out of all the side characters, his was the one that I cared about the most, even though we didn't see a whole lot of time with him, because I thought it was really powerful for him to be like, he's in Hong Kong and he's like, nobody comes in here. Mm-hmm. And then a few scenes later, we see that he died. Mm-hmm. Holy crap. Like, that actually affected me. I was like, oh no, Wong. Right. Like, at that point, like, I already cared for the character. And he didn't have to do anything. He just acted like a badass. And then you could see that he had some charm to him, but he had small lines. At some points, the other characters were talking for Wong. Yeah. The Ancient One did. But you already cared for the guy. Yeah. It's like, why couldn't you have done that, but with all the other characters? Because I actually was like...
Or make Wong a more like prominent character in the movie versus him just being kind of like the R2-D2 of... Which kind of what it was. He was in there for... He did something, comedic relief, and then back to the serious action of the movie.
I hope they focus on him more, and I hope we get to learn more and see his dynamic.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to see him and Strange. I like their relationship now, but also to see it kind of grow, but keep the kind of the pensiveness between one another. Just because I think it was funny to see their interaction. Like, just when he wasn't reacting to Doctor Strange, I thought that was funny. Yeah. And how Benedict played off of that. Mm-hmm. That whole little scene was just really good.
Yeah.
I'm going to say one of the big problems for me is you said it was a $160 million movie. Mm-hmm. Why at the very beginning when he's doing the surgery is the camera shaking? Because it's just, if you watch it, it's shaking. It's like, why is it shaking? You have so much money, and I know you have like this big budget. There's no reason it should be shaking unless you have reason. My thinking was, oh, okay, well, his hands are going to be shaking, but that's
a stretch, yeah.
And then another thing was the bookshelf when he's running, and I thought this was good. And he's running from one of the henchmen, and he pushes the bookshelf down. You're like, why would he do that? Because the guy just goes over it, and it's like, to me, it was thinking like, because I was just like,
yeah, what's that gonna do? I did the same thing he did. I'm like, what's that gonna? That's literally gonna do nothing.
His old thinking that I think the Ancient One was trying to get out of him. He said, forget everything that you knew, and I think that's to show that he still hasn't quite forgotten everything that he knew. And by the end of the movie, we see that he's finally gone full circle. So, because by that point in the middle of it, he was still, I think, kind of in between. Because remember, he had to kill the guy, and so that created a rift between him and Mordor.
Yeah.
Mordor.
Yeah, Mordor.
Not Mordor. The Hobbits.
The Hobbits. Yeah, it's a weird spinoff. Doctor Strange meets the Hobbits. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there were a few moments like that were kind of weird, but I think I just kind of a moment I really loved was when you go into that house. I think it was the New York or the London sanctuary. Yeah. The where like they had the exterior, the 3 doors with the exteriors, and you could turn that knob and it would change That was so cool. And then like whenever they got attacked and he threw a couple guys out there and changed, like threw it in the desert and then changed it to the rainforest, to the person in the rainforest, and changed it again. Yeah, that was really cool.
I like that he couldn't immediately do it. He had to actually fight, and so that built that tension. Right. Like, oh, is she gonna get back in?
And then I guess we talk about real fast about the effects of the movie, because that was a big, like, it was almost like a character of its own, sort of. Of like whenever they were like running on the side of buildings, but like they were like they were the floor, and how buildings were like flipping over themselves, and it's like that M.C. Escher painting of like the stairs. It's almost like that, where it's like there's several different like layers of buildings and stuff, and like they were running through as the buildings are like turning and stuff, very Inception like, where the buildings flip on top of themselves, almost like that. But to like an extreme, which is really cool.
Yeah, I hope to see more of that in the next few movies. I loved when he was fighting. Him and Mordo were actually in that huge fight right before the Ancient One comes, and we see it happening to the entire city. At one point, he stops, and you see the entire city doing it. That was such a cool scene. Yeah. Like, I was like, okay, this is a good movie. when I saw that visually, it was really pleasing to me.
And I didn't see it. I didn't see it in IMAX or 3D, but I imagine it would have been really cool. And
For those who
IMAX.
enjoy that form,
Right.
then I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, but you
Yeah,
know,
I
those who
get
do.
you.
I really liked. It was almost like a kaleidoscope. You know, where, like you look into it and it's like it changes and stuff as you shift it.
And I've
It's
heard
very
it's
much like
supposed
that.
to be his character
Mhm.
and how his character was built in the comics. Like the comic books are supposed to be kind of trippy,
Mhm.
and we have that trippy scene at the very beginning, and then we have that right there.
Yeah.
So I could totally see someone like,
Yeah.
if you're on some drugs, you'd
Yeah.
really find this
Yeah.
movie interesting.
Well, you mean the comic came out? I think in like '69 is when like the first one was published, or '68. And I was like, somebody dropped some serious acid before they wrote this comic. Stanley or Steve Ditko dropped some serious acid and then wrote this comic. But yeah, all in all, what would you rate the movie out of 10?
Let's say that.
The overall,
Yeah, the whole thing, whole movie.
I'd probably give it a 6.5 to 7 stars out of 10, and the only reason why it's that low is because so many of the side characters weren't explained, and I'm left with so much dissatisfying things with that. But if they would just pick that up, it would probably be like a 9 or a 10 because it's visually great. Benedict did a great job. Wong was amazing, but and the story wasn't a bad story at all, even though it's one that we've kind of heard.
Right.
It was a good story. It's just all of the characters besides the two that I listed are flat and we don't really give a shit about.
Yeah.
So that's what brings it down for me.
Yeah.
I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10. For a lot of the same reasons. But like I felt like the story was decent for we've seen it before, like you said. But there was enough there for me to complain about and for me to like nitpick, and some of it is nitpicky, I'm sure, whatever. But there was enough problem there where I was like, that's kind of distracting. But I feel like the good outweighed the bad more than like there's enough good stuff there where I was like, this is an enjoyable movie, it's fun.
Go see the sequel.
Yeah, I'd maybe even watch the first one again. I'd watch Doctor Strange again probably. Maybe in theaters and maybe pay a matinee price, to or take somebody who hasn't seen it, I feel like it's a definitely very watchable, very enjoyable, but with issues,
Yeah, there were times where because obviously we were going to talk about it, so I was trying to look at it critically, and sometimes it's hard to not get wrapped in the movie.
Right. Yeah, I found myself getting like just lost, and I was like, this is cool, and then I'm on what happened. I'm like, oh wait, that's kind of dumb. I'll just but it wouldn't take nothing took me out of the movie really, but yeah, I feel you. So yeah, I guess that's been the first episode, guys. First episode of the Cinemaniacs podcast.
You guys made it. Good job.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do this podcast for a long time. I love talking about movies. It's like my favorite thing, besides making them, which I do. I don't know if I said that. We both make movies because we're awesome and film students. And so, yeah, I mean, I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys come back for the next one. I know I'll be here. Hopefully Josh doesn't abandon me.
I'll think about it.
I think maybe the next one we'll do.
If I get stuck in the dark world, I might not make it, man. I'm sorry.
Maybe the next one we'll do Fantastic Beasts. I think that's coming out next week.
I'm so excited for that.
So I think we'll do a discussion and a talk about that. Let us know, guys, if you want us to talk about anything, because we'll look into it. We'll probably dive more into TV and stuff. Maybe eventually later as the TV gets back into the swing of things, because it's kind of like it's the later part of the year, so TV's kind of either winding down or shows that I don't watch are starting. So stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm very happy we're finally doing this, and it should be up soon. Make sure to check out our SoundCloud, our iTunes, our YouTube, which will be up soon, as with iTunes. It's probably on SoundCloud first, as far as soon as I get it up.
It'd probably be SoundCloud, then YouTube, then iTunes.
iTunes, you have to go through this whole process and stuff to get it up. But yeah, on those things, subscribe, download our stuff, and rate us. It helps the podcast move forward. It helps a good audience. And
talk about us.
Yeah, talk about us. We have a Twitter. I'm a Cinemaniac. I am a Cinemaniac. You can follow us. We have 0 followers, so except for my Twitter, which is at the Noble Banks, I guess, which you could follow if you want.
We're successful already. It's all right. We have one.
We're just starting. We're a nonprofit, so we're
trying to start.
But yeah, I guess stay tuned for the next episode. My name's Noble Banks,
and my name's Josh Buzzard.
And thanks for listening, guys.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
I love you.
Kind of.